Hey folks, NHN Gaming here, back with another episode of Suzerain, and today we are gonna meet with Alphonso regarding the Gasm deal. But before that, I want to read all of these little notifications around the map, see what's our status, ongoing status looks like. Let's see. A1 report. Underhook Construction Project Manager for the A1 Railway has reported that the project has been progressing well. They have already started laying down the foundations of the ground, retaining walls, bridges, and tracks. Project supervisors from the government confirmed reports saying that the most preliminary works has already been done by Underhold and everything was running according to schedule. Okay. Leader sound like the demands. He declared that without the implementation of term limits and limited degrees, it would be very difficult for him and his party to stand behind the reform package. So right now in my reform package, I do not have term limits and I don't have limited degree. Well, for two reasons. First is with limited degrees, I can't make stronger executive decision, and you see why later on in the game. Like there will be some options, some decrease options. Decrease in this game is basically executive action conducted by the president, but with a limited decrease, it's really hard. It's kind of limiting the power, the executive power of the president. So I didn't really change the degree. I just keep it as it is. So it gives me more options that I can do later on in the game. Term limits, I didn't implement it for two reasons. First is if I negotiate with Franz Richter later on about the reform, with, you know, he's gonna ask one of two things. Either A, I have the limited degree, or B, I have term limits. So not adding term limits is kind of like a smart way of keeping my degrees, because I can sacrifice one or two things. I can sacrifice the limited degrees. I can sacrifice my regular degrees and switch it to a limited degrees, or I can sacrifice my unlimited term limits to get term limits. So it's kind of a smart way to sacrifice one issue but keeping the other one. So later on he's gonna want to negotiate, and then I'm just gonna say, hey, I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna have term limits, but in return I keep my regular degrees. So yeah, MFPs on reforms. Saro Kipner, the leader of the NFP, has announced today that the NFP is complete against any threshold reform. He's specifically emphasizing that this will lead to unwanted elements entering the assembly, and that he is outright against any change to the 10% threshold. So Kisaro is from the NFP, which is an ultra-right nationalist party, and of course he wants to keep the threshold as it is, because he doesn't want leftist organization like the communists or the socialists to be represented in the assemblies. He wants them out, and he will gladly accept the USP and the PFJP, because to him they are less radical than any leftist organization. And the USP, any member of the USP led by Albin Clavin and the reformist wings of the party, clarified their demands from the government in the party congress for the upcoming constitutional reform. Albin Clavin stated that without ministry reforms, they won't be able to stand behind the new reform package. Okay. Read reports. Repeal of Energy Protection Act of 1932 fails. The proposed repeal of the Energy Protection Act of 1932 was put to a vote in the Assembly today, resulting in its defeat, despite strong advocacy from the reformer faction of the PFJP and beyond, including within the USP under Albin Clavin. The majority of the assembly led by the USP and the NFP voted against the repeal 179 to 71. Consequently, the Energy Protection Act of 1932 remains in force, maintaining the status quo of foreign ownership, restriction of energy companies in Sordland. This result it concludes current attempts to modify the foreign ownership regulation, but does not preclude further legislative efforts or any initiative by the exclusive. So, the Energy Protection Act of 1932, well, it fails to pass because the majority of the assembly is currently run by the USP, and the USP is mostly conservative. There's some reformist wing within the USP, like from Alvin Clavin faction, but even then, it's not enough to vote against the repeal. At most, they have 71 votes. And it makes sense why they want to repeal it, because Alvin Clavin of the reformist wing of the USP and the PFJP wants to reform because they are capitalists. They want free market to come in and compete for the energy resources. You know, competition in the market, increased investment, all that stuff. But the USP majority are mostly protectionist, and they don't want any like foreign elements coming in, any foreign investor coming in and compete with the local domestic products. So, Workers' Right Bill nears completion. The Workers' Right Act of 1954, proposed by Alvin Clavin, Pascal Benuel, is being prepared. Okay. Voices from the labor union show a strong sign of support. Okay. I'm probably gonna veto that Workers' Rights Bill. You know, because in a recession, I don't think it's a good idea to increase labor costs, and also I'm trying to save my budget for other issue. So, yes. Unfortunately, I have to veto it later on. It's a prison riot. Word C. Political prisoner in right Starwin Agun was killed by a British political prisoner. 4 guards and 21 prisoners died, 134 injured. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of political prison in Antel, especially British political prisoners that were arrested during Tarkinso administration. There's a mine disaster. Yep. So it's probably gonna like increase the support for the Workers' Right Bill, but I'm still gonna veto it. Modena industrial output is concerned. The mayor of Modena has reported that their industrial output number this year are 12% lower than last year. They are in representation support to improve their industrial capacity, including machinery and personnel, to combat the downward trend. With the construction of several new factories in Modena, the mayor stated his belief that an economic upturn in the city is still possible. Yeah. Okay. Young source suspected of terror attack. Okay, more political violence. Yeah. Yeah, young swords and how do I say, the young swords and the red youth tend to fight around kind of this area. Because I believe this is a communist stronghold, so there's a lot of more conflict in this area between the communists, the left wing and the right wing faction. Yeah, young source member found decapitated. The Estoril Police Department has found a decapitated body in an abandoned house where the victims were later identified as Kirk Link, a high school teacher and member of the local Young Source Cultural Center. The victim was discovered to be tortured with hard iron claws. Damn. Suspect. Yeah, that's wild. Found decapitated. Yeah. See, yeah, overall, pretty shitty situation overall in Sordland. Still ongoing political violence between two factions. Like, you have decapitation. What? You have murder. You know, like in context, like even in the US, like if you think about it, you have during the 2020 election, you have what, the MAGA crowd, and you have like Black Lives Matter, Antifa protests, the Proud Boys, and all that stuff. Even then, even all that violence is pale in comparison to what Sordland is going through. You think about it, because in Sordland you have decapitation, murder, shooting, prison riots, like all the above. And you know, compared to a real world, it's not as bad. Like, I mean, there's some like rioting, but there's people that injured. Some people, some. I mean, there's some injury and there's some death in a real world. But compared to Sordland, like yeah, Sordland has it worse, and they're only in the 50s. They're not even in the modern time yet. So like, you know, Sordland is kind of like you know, fucked. You know, you have racism, discrimination of a minority, left and right wing violence, down, you know, economic recession, corruption. Yeah, man. Uh, feels bad. uh, then let's see. The Kingdom of Rizia. Rizia advocates for energy partnership. The Rizian Oil and Gas ROG has extended to a co-investment proposal for Sordland ambitious gas-some energy ventures. King Romus emphasized the bilateral benefits of such a cooperation and its potential of bolstering the region's energy security. He also stressed that this collaborative venture could form the bedrock of a strong economic alliance further binding our nations. Potentially. Let's see how it goes. Acacia builds military base in Lesbia. Okay, following the conclusion, as part of the agreement, a large military base will be constructed on Rafnos Island. The base will be equipped with Acacian radar and anti-air system. Okay. 20,000 Acacian soldiers. Damn. That's a lot of soldiers. I know Kantana's not gonna like that. Because, yeah. You have Acacia air base, you know, bases here, and potential more base and backlands right here, so CSP leaders discuss Helgeland at Helm's at Helm Summit. In a pivotal meeting convened in Helm, leaders of the CSP have gathered to discuss intricate issues of Helgeland's sovereignty, a matter of tinged with historical complexity. The ensemble recalled the 1920 Agnolian annexation of the island during Vaxland Revolution, underscoring their commitment to address past misstep and ensure a future that respects the rights and aspirations of the island inhabitants. Summit also is a testament to the CSP adept navigation in an ever-evolving geopolitical landscape marked by the capitalist influence of the ATO, emphasizing the importance of dialogue and cooperation. CSP leaders reinstated their determination to avoid escalation in an already delicate situation. Okay. So, CSP leaders, so the communist faction is probably gonna back Vaxland in how do you say this? They would probably back Vaxland in getting the island back. So if I make a trade talk with Agnolia, I'm gonna avoid the island issue. Because, you know, getting into this mess, no one wants to get into this mess. So yeah, I'm gonna be neutral if it comes down to it. Yeah, ATO pledges financial and military aid to Agnolia, so Montana is gonna back Voxland, and then Acacia is gonna back Agnolia. And Sordland is not gonna back anyone. I'm gonna be neutral. So yep. I'm Rumbung in Voxland. This aid package is designed to enhance Agnolia economic stability and bolster its military capabilities, fortifying its against possible CSP advance and further Roomberg hostilities as part of an ATO larger goal to secure its capitalist allies against the spread of socialism. This assistance served as a testament to the ATO commitment to supporting its member nation in their time of need. Okay. The news, preserving national sovereignty, the EPA stands for now. So the whole sword force is very conservative, so they applaud the Energy Protection Acts. And Sordland today is owned by Marcel, so everything I do, they will praise it, like the tourism bill. Yep. The Economists, education privatization proven successful. They love capitalism, so everything. So any free market stuff, they're always gonna support it. Yep. More school in wealthy neighborhood. This is what's in budget to the state because of funds to state school elsewhere. It's a major was the following of minor curricular changes. And to major improving the student participation, happiness, and boost the performance of the institution. Oh, I know the improvements are success massive 34 billion is raised good option. More capital to tackle the recession where education is privatized, foreign capital to persuade. The rising report that systems include access to education metrics of that. Similar to Sam. Yeah, I understand this whole. Well, I mean, privatization can lead to educational gap. I mean, if say the rich, if the wealthy, they can afford better private school, they would just send them to those schools instead of going to the public school. But I mean, even with public school, I mean, wealth, even if you eliminate privatization, even if you eliminate private school, like the school is still determined by the neighborhood wealth. So you notice, like, I mean, at least in America, where I live in California, like, depend on your zip code, the wealthier the neighborhood is, it tends to follow that their public school is more well funded because they pay more taxes, so they can pay. So let's say, I don't know, I live in the Bay Area. I live in the Bay Area, right? So in Walnut Creek, for example, there's a lot of like rich, there's a lot of like wealthy white people in general. So, they're the neighborhood, most parts of the city in Walnut Creek is pretty wealthy. So overall, the infrastructure is better funded. Their public school is also better funded. So they are overall, like their ranking, the school ranking in that neighborhood is always going to be high because they are more funded by, by the wealthier neighborhood because they pay more taxes to those school system. And if you go to like a poorer neighborhood, like you go to Compton or you go to like Richmond, where the neighborhood is very poor, then there's not gonna be a lot of taxes because the majority of the people living there are low income, so they won't be paying that much tax. So their school are probably not gonna be, their school is definitely are not well as funded compared to a Walnut Creek school. So I mean, privatization, I mean, it's just gonna, I mean, it doesn't really change much. I mean, because the wealthy is always gonna spend more on education, So even if you ban privatization, there's still always gonna be an educational gap between wealthy neighborhood and poor neighborhood. So, green a threat to growth. newly proposed Green Act aimed at nurturing a sustainable industrial approach including raises concern of stifling economic growth. Section 1 stringent regulation on industrial pollutions and waste disposal could potentially burden business with heavy compliance costs. Though fines and will fund environmental recovery projects, the financial strain could outweigh the benefits. Okay. So the Green Act is saying that we will fine business that doesn't that cause industrial pollution. I mean, it's a pretty radical proposal, like especially in the 50s, where like the majority of countries doesn't really have a pollution control uh, standard. But let's see where this lead. You know, not sure about it. Gasm in turmoil, a leadership crisis. The recent financial distress facing Gasm, one of the pillars of Sordland economy, highlights a glaring issue of at its helm on investigation. Reveals a concerning narrative of mismanagement spearheaded by Alphonso and the current CEO, known to maintain close ties with Minister Manga. Evidently, their leadership is characterized by a striking absence of cost-cutting initiatives measured to enhance operation efficiency. So, Alfonso fucks everything up. He fucks the country up, and now him being the CEO of Gasm, he's leading it into how do I say this? The drain. So he not only does he ruin the country, even the companies that he's managing is also failing financially, and we have to negotiate with him later. I don't know, man. Like he's not helping his case. He's just making, I don't know. He's just a bad president. Like I can't defend him. Like no way. Parisian Oil and Gas expresses interest in Gasm. Parisian Oil and Gas, a leading player in the global energy sector, has reportedly expressed an interest in investing in Gasm. This Parisian corporation giant move could have significant implications for Sordland domestic energy sector. While this potential investment may raise concerns about foreign influence, it also will offer a welcome capital injection for Gasm. Okay. FC Guildford, FC Enrica, and Derby postponed due to protests. Okay. Can I say that I really like how despite this being like a political like interactive fiction, there's still like like I mean there's still like news about all the stuff like around the world, like about football, about sport. It just makes the world seems more real, like because this is talking about soccer, right? So like just reading the news about sport and then reading the news about like how other countries is developing new technology, it just makes the world of Suzerain seem so much more alive and realistic. You know, there's more like I feel more invested in the story because of little things like this. So yeah, the radical so needs to answer for his crimes. Looking at the history of everything wrong in our country, there's only one figure that everyone points to, Tarkin So. He's devolved from a country into something much worse than it was before. He committed crimes against humanity. We still remember the Izam incident. Okay, 100 people, ethnic background. Okay. Construction, the construction site was from the old British village called Izam, which black African race open. Damn. Okay, and this no. Okay, which include one of the most controversial targets for decision. British genocide, group British nationalists established. Okay, so this issue is more complicated. You know, we can't really just say that talking so well. Okay, I mean, he wants to build a dam, right, to increase energy production in the country to keep um to provide Sordland with energy independence. But in return, he has to bulldoze a brutish village, which is not a good thing. Um, but I mean, I get why, but if the relationship between the brutish people and the government of Sordland is already bad, him kind of just bulldozing the village and killing the protester doesn't really help. I feel there could have been a better way to approach this, because I understand why he wants the dam to be built. I understand why he wants energy independence, but him doing this, you know, killing like protester, like you know, just uh kind of like intensifying like racial tension in the region doesn't really help the issue, you know. So yeah, it's just a complicated issue, and so is a very complicated uh individual in Sordland history. On one hand, it really helped kind of like model the country, build a country, uh, you know, national identity. But on one hand, um, he has a lot of like controversial issues, you know, and controversial decisions that he made during his administration. And I think the reason why so is so controversial because he, first of all, So is a military man, right? He thinks from a military perspective. So he doesn't think from a civilian like uh official. Like, you know, if say a president, you know, if a president is elect as a civilian, he would think more about stuff like civil rights, you know, people's rights and how to respond to certain things. You know, like let's say a civilian elected as a president, kind of they probably would keen to approach issue more diplomatically. But Talking So is a military man because he used to be a colonel. He was a military officer. He spent most of his life in the military. So for him, uh, responding to things violently and decisively, and you know, responding to things in a strong manner, reflect his military background, and that could help in certain sense. But most of the time, it kind of just intensified the issue. A balanced approach is needed. Sometimes you need to be diplomatically, sometimes you need to be strong. But for So, he always responds to everything in a very strong manner because of his military background. It doesn't really help, you know, fixing uh, the ongoing crisis. So just something to note because you know, Talking So is a, you know, out of all of Sordland president, you have four president. You have the first president, Arthur Wissy. That's the first president. You know, he's a civilian. Then you have Alphonso. He's the third president, and me, Anton Rain, and we are all like civilian. Well, I mean, Anton served in the military for a while, but he wasn't like an officer or anything like that. Um, but only So was a colonel. He was an army officer. He has a distinguished military background, so he thinks things in like military manner. So every day we are appalled by how deep the roots of misogyny goes in our country. We are appalled again when yesterday, during protests led by the Swedish League of Women, counter-protests showed up to disrupt a peaceful rally. Okay. So there's a women's march ongoing. Labor's Union. Safe working regulation. The time for real workers reform is now. One voice demand with frustration. Okay, so there's a lot of like voices asking for, you know, minimum wage, overtime pay, and safe working run. Yeah, so there's a large demand for that. But I mean, the economy is not doing well, and I don't want to sign any more like labor laws that can affect our business. The business are only barely able to function right now, so signing more like minimum wage and overtime pay and safe, it's just gonna really undercut ourselves. You know, um, it's a tough choice I had to make later on, but I have to stick with it. Okay, reports under scrutiny. And Raqqa, born economic horizon. Raqqa is taking switch step toward diversifying its economic portfolio with keen focus on investing in energy exporting nations. This approach not only indicates that Raqqa intends to strengthen its economic stability but also underlines its foresight in recognizing the burgeoning value of energy sectors worldwide. Summit of ATO, global neutrality. Okay. So yeah, so and Raqqa, as mentioned before, like is a very neutral nation, and basically they are saying that they don't want to involve themselves with ATO and the CSP. They're trying to be a little like non-aligned, kind of like League of Nations, working with each other, which I'm kind of inclined to joining too, if that's an option later on. Because, you have the communist faction, the monarchists, Bloomberg, and then you have the capitalists, then you have the neutral nations. It's best to be neutral in all this mess. So, hey, we have a labor strikes ongoing. Okay, says yes, and now US strike against Gasm. Okay, meeting with managers. Meanwhile, Gus Manga invited me to visit Gasm headquarters. Hey, next to it, Leming's Gas Reserve, a prominent natural gas source consisting of 4 large fields. As our motorcade made its way to the Onabel districts, I know the neighborhood was in a state of disrepair. The roads were bumpy and marked by potholes, while the buildings around us appeared rundown and dilapidated. This community had apparently endured a prolonged period of neglect. We came to a halt at the entrance gates of the facility. A sizable mural depicting the Gasm logo has been painted on a nearby wall. Adjacent to the mural, a group of individuals wearing blue work vests has assembled, holding what looks like protest signs. Serge skillfully parked the car. Okay. Good day, Mr. President. Welcome to Gasm Nobel Operations. I trust Ministers Walter and Benewell didn't overwhelm you with their demands. Good to see you. I wanted to talk about what we can do to help with the development here. Perfect. That's exactly what I hope to accomplish during today's discussion. My job is to improve the conditions of places like these. Mr. President, I've been brainstorming a little something, the Gruney Rural Investment Plan. I reckon it's got the potential to breathe new life into our rural communities out in Gruney. So Gruney is this region that's on the far right. Right here. So we could consider a few things. For starters, we could give the farming business a boost with some subsidies, or we could steer towards modernizing existing farm with machinery and tech. Or here's another thought: we could pour resources into developing crop breeds tailor-made for Croonies conditions. If it works out, we could roll this out across Sordland. He kept talking as he guided me into the gas I'm building. Mr. President, I get the appeal of the green bill that's been making the rounds in the assembly. I'm telling you, if we put the brakes on that and funnel those funds into the Croonie plans instead, we could make some real strides without spooking any potential investor. So the green bill that we read earlier in the news is a environmental protection bill that kind of like penalize business if they pollute the environment, if they go over a emission rate. But he's saying that if we invest in the Croonie plan instead, that's a better option, which I may be inclined to do it, but I have to read the details later on. Well, it's a tough call, Gus. I need to weigh the environmental implication and the economic benefits. That's all I'm asking, Mr. President. Just give this plan a fair shake. Yeah, I mean, I have to read both things and decide later on. So, our talk was interrupted by a noise coming from outside the building. We looked out the nearest window. A sleek helicopter was cutting through the sky, sunlight glinting off its polished surface as it descended towards us. On it was our next appointment, Ewo Alphonso. That's quite a show of power. Alphonso doesn't do things by halves, does he? Yes, he's always had a flair for the grandiose. Before we meet him, I want to bring up one more piece of the assembly business, this workers' rights bill. Look, I'm all for giving hard-working folks what they deserve, but isn't it a bit hasty to push this while we're stuck in a recession? Yeah, I kinda agree with Gus. Even though... I mean... Gus is kinda sus at the same time, because he used to work with Alphonso, and he seems to be very loyal to him. But a lot of things he said does make a lot of sense, and I have to agree with him. So, and overall, he helped me a lot, with the investment plan. So, I'm gonna hear him out on this. The way I see it, short-term wins might end up costing us big time in the long run. You got a point, Gus. We got to play this smart. We can't risk another economic blow. Yeah. Mr. President, I'm glad you're thinking about the big picture. We got to strike a balance to protect our economy and our workers. Timing and approach are everything. And this is what I wonder. I wonder if in Sordland there's like different minimum wage across like the cities. Because how like in the United States, different states have different minimum wage, even though the federal minimum wage of the US right now is still like what, $7 or $8, I forgot. But like in California, I think the minimum wage is 15 now, and depends on the cities you live in. Like it may be higher. So like having like federal increase in minimum wage may not be that helpful, because if different cities of Sordland or like let's say Holsford is wealthier, they can have their own minimum wage, can be a little higher compared to other region. So I think just increasing the minimum wage federally without accounting to each region financial status, it's not a good thing, because you think about it. Let's say the federal minimum wage of Sordland is like what? Let's say I'm just gonna give a fictional number like 20. So that means that Ankland, Bergia, like poor regions, they can only afford like what, at most $10 an hour. But if you increase the federal minimum wage to 20, it's just gonna put more strain on the local business in Ankland and in Bergia. So I'm just saying that just increasing the minimum wage doesn't really help, because business may just move out, because they're gonna think like, oh, a business in a poor region, you're gonna be like, you know, this region is really poor. Like I can't. Cost is not really that affect. You know, the increased cost in paying for employees is not that good. So I'm just gonna pull out and move to another wealthier region. I can afford to do my business. So I just don't think increasing the minimum wage will solve the issue of workers' wage. Because right now the issue is not having jobs and not having enough business opening jobs. You know, if you increase the wage and no business wants to invest in the communities, it's kind of useless. So that's my stance on it. Please come this way. Okay. You still have to prove that you make returns on your deals or investment in Armadine. I better make a return. I never claim to see the future, Mr. President. I merely find good opportunities and seize them. Sometimes I do it for myself, and other times I chase lucks with others. You play it safe with 2,000 shares, but you still stand to make some gains. Me, I got 4,000 shares thanks to a low-risk loan I leveraged on an old logistic business of mine. Okay. Soon as the IPO kicks in on the Ventry City Stock Exchange, we both be rolling in Ren. Do you think it's a little wrong that someone in your position is active in the stock market? I mean, I invest too, but I'm just wondering. Because I don't know, like, because in the US right now, I think if you invest in stock as a, let's say if you work in the government, let's say you're a senator or you're a, if you are a House of Representative member and you have stocks or business, you have to like either disclose it or you have to end, like, you know, when Donald Trump became the president, he was the CEO of you know, of the Trump business, but then when he became president, he has to resign, you know, kind of not involve himself with any of his business and left over to his sons. So I'm curious as to Sordland, you know, laws in relates to like personal business. Like if you are like a president or if you are a minister within the government, do you have to like leave your business or kind of like transfer your business so it doesn't make a conflict of interest while you are in the government? I don't think so. My job is to bring resources to long-forgotten areas of Sordland and keep our rural areas vitalized. What I do during my personal time doesn't affect that. If anything, keeping up with the market trends will help me benefit our local economies. Okay. Alright, I mean I'm doing it too, so I can't really say anything else. If I say anything else, I'm gonna be a hypocrite. We can discuss this later, Mr. Rain. We shouldn't keep our former president waiting. He pushed open the door. We walked down yet another hallway, seemingly in the direction we just came from. Like a maze, isn't it? The Kinali architecture for you. The hallway was lined with doors, glass panels, and then review workers in suits and ties. Many are foreign origin, busy in their pristine offices. Stark contrast to the blue-collar workers outside working with machinery, transportation, and maintenance. Why are there so many workers from abroad? The best times in Sordland was snatched by the SSC in the 1930s. Most other corporations couldn't content, so they had to look elsewhere. Ah, here's the elevator. Ewo's ought to be up there already. There's a separate entrance by the helipad. We stepped into the elevator, Gus punched a code, and we began our ascent. Just remember, Alphonso's our friend. We got the foundation for a great deal. The doors open. Here we are, Ewo, my friend. Ewo Alphonso stood up from his chair. He had a perfectly tailored suit that he wore as casually as pajamas. Gus, you old devil. Takes one to know one. As promised, I brought our guests of honor. President Rain, I hope you enjoy seeing our facilities here. Alphonso. Let's see, the facilities appears to be in much better shape than the city around them. You should have seen Nobel before Gasm came here. The jobs it generated have had a lasting positive effect. Really now. It's true, things here could have been a lot worse. Maybe. Please have a seat, let's talk. We sat down, some snacks and drinks were served, multiple Gasm yearly financial reports were scattered on the tables between us. It's been a while, Mr. Rain. Let me catch you up on my activities since I left office. I ventured to China, immersing myself in its vibrant culture, then traversed the captivating landscapes of the Anrakan Peninsula, and finally reunited with an old acquaintance in Kyoto. Along the way, I had the privilege of encountering remarkable individuals who have made significant contributions to their respective fields. My experience prompted deep reflection on the essence of life. I came out of it all with two words resonating in my head: reputation and legacy. These two pillars embody the lasting impact we leave behind, the way we are remembered by others. With a cup of coffee in hand, he strolled over to the windows, his gaze drawn to the expansive gas fields stretching before him. Towering mountains provide a majestic backdrop. Well, unfortunately for you, Alfonso, reputation, legacy. Reputation, when I think of you, kind of like a... Honestly, you feel kind of like a scoundrel. Not gonna lie. Legacy, I think of you as a failure. Cause I'm just gonna be real. Looking at your administration, how you fucked up the country. Like, I became the president to fix your mess. So, because of your presidency, we have record high unemployment. Because of your presidency, we have a low growth. Because of your presidency, like, I don't even know how it's possible. Like, you have negative growth during your presidency. How is that even possible? There was no war, okay? The country wasn't in a war, right? There was no massive epidemic outbreak. There was no like crazy disease going on. Like, there was no civil war. There was no political. I mean, not that I know of. There's no political violence right now. So all of this happened because of what you did during your administration. So I don't know. I mean, reputation and legacy kind of seems kind of bad. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it seems kind of like an F tier right now. F tier reputation and kind of like an F tier legacy. And how you running your own company right now? I don't know, man. Seems it seems kind of like fucked up. So. I mean, pursuit of reputation and legacy is an intrinsic part of human experience. We yearn to be remembered and to make a meaningful contribution. He gazed out for a moment longer as he contemplated what I'd said and turned back to us. I've been thinking about my own legacy and reputation, and I refuse to be remembered as a failed reformer. Well, not just a failed reformer, a failed president that messed up the country before I came in power, and I'm trying to fix that. Put so many years of my life into this corporation, and then I left it all behind and devote myself to serving the people of Sordland. And serve you did. Sordland would be much worse without you. Really. I mean, I'm gonna keep my real thoughts in secret because I'm not gonna be like critical to him as we talk right now, because I'm trying to make a deal. So I'm just gonna be as diplomatic and be nice to him as possible. But honestly, like, I don't know. I feel like Alfonso just doesn't really have a plan, and he's just looking out for his own pocket. So, um, I cannot help but empathize with individuals who invest their utmost dedication and passion into their works. That's much appreciated. I am well aware of the chance that you yourself have faced. I commend you for navigating those obstacles without causing harm to others. Yet, but I'm concerned about the future of what I've built up. The latest figures show that Gasm will have to have either decreased staff and operation by 40% in 1 year or take on a crushing amount of debt. That's why we have decided to reach out to foreign investors. I mean, engaging in foreign investment can be a two-headed sword because too much foreign investment can, how do I say this? We lose a certain industry. If we lose too much investment, then we lose an edge in it. You know what I mean? Because what is it? I'm trying to see right now. Yeah, we have a balanced energy crisis. I'm assuming because we have this modifier is because we have like sole control of our energy, right? We have full energy independence from the international market, but with foreign investment coming in, taking a little bit of a share in our energy sector, it means that we may lose our energy independence, and then we may have increased energy price because of this. I have concerns about relying too much on foreign investor. It's important to prioritize local ownership and maintain sovereignty of our national resource. I understand your concern, but whether the future of Gaza is on the line. Rest assured, we will take measures to protect our interests and ensure responsible engagement. I appreciate you coming through. Getting Risia interested in another investment is a major feat. We got an amazing opportunity here. The demand for gas is steadily increasing from both international partners and the Swedish state. All we have to do is to ensure a consistent supply. The trouble is that right now, some of our fields are operating at only half of their capacity due to resources limitation, but we have significant potential for expansion, including 2 new fields that haven't even been tapped. With the right amount of investment, we can expand resource extraction, effectively fulfilling rising demand and ensure long-term stability and profitability. There's the aforementioned interest from Russia, but the investment could also come from Sordland itself. You do know that Russia can't invest more than 20% unless the government permits the transaction, which can take a long time. Which is precisely why you were invited to be a part of the discussion. I will remind you that I was never against the complete removal of the Energy Protection Act of 1932. Surprisingly. In fact, I saw eye to eye with Seoul about protecting our natural resources from foreign interests, but there's a balance in all things. The reality of the Caucasian-style capitalism means that our national interests should absolutely be parts of the discussion. Mr. Alphonso has neglected to mention that this is not either or proposition. Sordland can invest alongside with Vizia. Why didn't you approach the large international banks of Kairout and Raqqa? They might be eager. Why travel far for what you can achieve at home with our good friends in Rizia? Some international banks are interested, but they would rather buy out the entirety of Gasm, which is not possible, at least for now. The sounds of sirens briefly distracted us. Through the window, we saw a police car driving down the street, adjacent to the Gasm zone. We directed our attention to the meeting. Evo looked at me. Mr. President, I believe we have potential for a mutually beneficial partnership. However, we need to align our objectives and expectations. You know, Mr. President, if we can get the government in on this, it's a win-win. Not only does Gasm continue to operate and grow, but also strengthen the state's energy security and economic power. We just need a little risk appetite, that's all. Are you ready, Mr. President, to take on the risks that come with ensuring one of Sordland's most valuable energies company continue to operate and grow? Are you ready to make our government stronger? What kind of assurance can you provide that this will be paid off in the long run, President Alphonso? As a president in business, there are no guarantees, but I can assure you that we at Gasm are committed to doing everything in our power to ensure this deal pay off for Sordland. I can't give you a guarantee, but I can tell you that I trust President Alfonso and I believe in this deal. Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith. I mean, okay, he studied business. He was appointed deputy of ministry talking so. I mean, Gus is a personal close friend of Alfonso, so he's definitely gonna have a bias in backing him this proposal. And by extension, if he can convince me, then it works for his friend, and he gets the benefit of it. But I can see, I mean, so far Gus hasn't misled me, you know, because I played the game before. I know that any investment that he proposed to me tends to make a profit. So Gus hasn't, how do I say this? Gus hasn't made me disappointed yet. So, but in this case, he's backing Alfonso, so I have to take his word for it. So, let's see. I have to place my trust in Gus for now. Mr. President, have you ever considered that the future of Solent might not rest not on avoiding risk, but about embracing risk? That our greatest potential might die? Might lie not our greatest potential might lie not in the safety of what we know, but in the uncertainty of what we might discover. That is true. That is a true statement. You have to take risks to get success. But coming from you, I don't know. We must make decisions based on what is best for Sordland in the present moment. If the Swedish government chooses to invest, it would gain a voice in the broader company's decisions even as a minority stakeholder. The government could either liquidate its share at a future date or continue to reap the long-term profits. Beneficial agreements for all parties. Ewo walked back to the windows. He stood there, silhouette against a vast expanse of the gas field. After a moment, he turned back to face us. His gaze was steady, the expectation clear in his eye. The time has come to make a decision. Will Mr. President, will Gasm and Sordland make history or not? We're investing alone. Sordland will provide the majority of funds, and Gus will tell Rizia to back off. We co-invest with Rizia. We share the costs and stakes. We won't invest at this time. Okay. I'm gonna see. Journal. So I'm just gonna weigh the pros and cons of each option. So option one is investing alone. Well, it costs more budget, but potential return is higher. So like they said, if I invest the majority of my funds into the company, so if the company becomes successful and we buy a share within the company, right? Then the return we have is greater. So if the company makes a lot of profit, and then the government would also be making a lot of profit because we have a share within the company. So I guess this is the risky investment. The second option is saying, well, co-invest, safe, middle road option. So, I mean, I'm guessing the returns would be medium because we're co-investing with Rizia. So any, less government budget investment means, Rizia investing one budget, we invest in one budget. So if there's any return, it's gonna be split between the two countries. We won't be making as much profit compared to the first option. And I'm assuming the third option is the worst because we don't invest into Gasm, then the companies may potentially go bankrupt. And even though the other nation will invest in it, even if other nation do invest in it, it means that those countries will get the profit and not us. But that doesn't necessarily means that the company is gonna survive because there probably won't be enough investment. And if Gasm went out of business, then the region of Nagis is gonna be even more poor because there's not a big companies providing jobs in the area. So it's a tough choice. You know what? Gotta play big to win big. And Gus hasn't lied to me so far. I've been making money out of Gus investment in my previous playthrough. So I'm gonna trust him and I'm gonna go in all in. So the decision to show a commitment to Sordland's energy independence. We won't let you down. That's a bold move, Mr. President, but I reckon it's the right one. Gaslam's success will be Sordland's success. The worried workers will have no fears about job security thanks to the state intervention. Before we dive into the celebration, I have allocated time during this meeting for President Rain to discuss any concern regarding Gaslam's treatment of its workers and its effects on Nobel. The labor union, along with the Communist Party of Sordland, has rallied substantial report from Gaslam workers in Nobel advocating for improved local conditions. Alphonso nodded and looked at me. We need to address these concerns. They could jeopardize the administration. Together, we might discover solutions beneficial to both parties. Do you have a proposal in mind, Mr. President? Okay. The workers of Gasm needs better housing, access to healthcare, and opportunities for education. As the leading industry here, it can't ignore its responsibility. I believe the first option is the most beneficial to the people of this region. Hopefully Alphonso will take it. Hopefully. He may decline it. I'm not sure. A good point. I see the potential for Gasm to play a larger role in supporting our workers and the community. I will personally oversee initiatives to provide private housing, health, and education support for our blue-collar workers. Okay, so he actually agreed to it. Well, I am investing a lot of money into this company, so he should have enough money to invest for his workers, right? That only makes sense. That's reassuring to hear. I trust that you will follow through this commitment. Well, this is promising. EWO's commitment to these initiatives should alleviate some of our concerns. Indeed, Mr. President, we are committed to. Suddenly, the meeting was interrupted. The quiet murmur of a conversation from outside the room grew louder, followed by the sound of hurried footsteps. A member of the private security team entered the room, his face taut with urgency. He approached Alphonso and leaned in to whisper something in his ear. Iwo nodded solemnly, his gaze meeting mine with a serious intensity. Gentlemen, seems we have an unexpected situation outside. Some protesters from the labor union have blocked the main vehicular exits. Katerina Horton and Dennis Staller seems to be leading the group. It will be difficult to leave the way we came without causing trouble. Okay, so he's current leader of the Communist Party, probably protesting about the working condition in Gassam. Well, that's a pickle. What's our move, Iwo? I have a helicopter ready. We can leave undetected and avoid the chaos and potential danger. Well, leaving the protest is not gonna solve anything. Is there no other way out? Trust me, I know this place well. The other way out is through a dangerous hilly terrain or the sewer. Just in case, I can stay back, update the crowds. Let's make a decision. A large state investment. Okay, and then we have to decide on how to leave Gaston facility in Nobel. Okay, we're gonna make the choice in the next episode because I am tired from talking for almost, well, an hour. So I'm just gonna take a break and then hopefully I can have some more time to record the next episode if I'm not too busy with work, not too busy with school. So yeah, so overall we took a big risk, invest a lot of money into Gasm, -2 budget. But hopefully we can make a lot of return out of that investment. So yeah, that's so again, see you guys next episode of Suzerain, and let's see how we're gonna deal with this protest in the next episode. All right, see ya.